Hello, welcome to Saints Live. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Well, another tough encounter awaits Southampton today as they welcome the Blues to St Mary's, and they are riding a wave of confidence. Thomas Tuchel has led Chelsea to 5 consecutive wins across all competitions. And with us today for this one is Dean Hammond, joining us from West Sussex. And also with us is Joe Prince-Wright, who is joining us from just over my shoulder. You can probably see him waving. Joe, great to have you here. This is taking social distancing to new heights.
It is, but it's great to be here. Great to be back at St Mary's, and as you can tell by the loud music, the PA announcer is really up for this one today, and really excited to be back with you guys.
Oh, well, it's a delight to have you here. Dean, we're just missing you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm recovering from half term with the children, which is always fun and games. I love it, really. It's great fun, but I never thought I'd say this. I'm quite looking forward to a bit of homeschooling on Monday, I must admit. The structure again would be quite nice. But I'm good, thank you.
Well, hopefully we can get your weekend off to the right start with a win today. Let's crack on with it then, gentlemen. We'll get some early team news in. We know that Kyle Walker-Peters is out after picking up an injury against Wolves last weekend. Also, Diallo, Walcott, Smallbone and Michael Obafemi are all out as well. So we'll get some early expectations of the lineup. Joe, with no fans here, I could probably shout these questions to you, but I'll refrain from doing so. What are you expecting to see today from Ralph?
I'm expecting to maybe see something a bit different with the formation change, perhaps. It would not surprise me to see something, kind of a curveball, because Ralph's been talking a lot about how he knows Thomas Tuchel well, and the Chelsea assistant now was his assistant at Leipzig for many years. So maybe he'll switch things up a little bit, because, you know, that is a huge bonus, I think, for Chelsea, preparing for the Saints going into this game. But I did kind of send out a few tweets ahead of the injury crisis, and maybe wasn't critical of Ralph, but just wanted to maybe see something a bit different and Saints to try and change their course of action and their style of play, maybe just to try and get the most experienced, best players they could on the pitch at the same time. Whether that means a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, I don't think it would change the actual high pressing and the intensity too much. But I think whatever we see here, I'm really intrigued to see how it kind of lines up, because you know, with Walker-Peters being out, that gives Saints a big problem at right back. And do you change everything because one player's out? Or do you kind of just tweak things and bring a player in who can slot in there? So, yeah, excited to see what Saints do. There's definitely a lot more options with formation-wise. And after the last few defeats, it feels like now could be a good time to freshen things up and change it a little bit.
Yeah, well, Ralph has always been a fan of that 4-2-2-2, but Dean, do you think he might change formation today to accommodate players that are fit?
It's an interesting question, Steve, and I think it'll be potentially the first time that the manager's really thought about changing shape. Whether he'll think, okay, the players that are fit and available to me and the opposition we're playing, shall I change the way we play a little bit? Should I adapt to the opposition? I don't know if he will do it, if I'm honest. We have the players to do it, to go free at the back, to maybe go over a kind of 3-4-2-1. But that leaves Danny Ings up front on his own. And if Chelsea have a lot of possession, he could get isolated. And I don't think the manager would like that. Jack Stephens is quite comfortable coming in at fullback, at a right fullback. I think that could work, and maybe just say to him, play more of a withdrawn role. Don't support so much, or just support from behind, and allow the attacking players to be a bit more expressive. Allow Stuart Armstrong to maybe float across the pitch and not be so defensive disciplined. So it's an interesting one. I mean, Chelsea are a really strong team. They're on good form at the moment. Like Joe said, the managers know each other very, very well. So I'm sure they've thought about it. The manager or Ralph will want to come up with something a little bit different. But the players have had a good 6 days rest now. They're recovered. I think the manager will want to continue that theme of high intensity pressing, having 2 strikers at the top of the pitch and attacking Chelsea. But I think potentially he could change shape, yes.
Dean, it does feel a little bit like deja vu, doesn't it, with Kyle Walker-Peters being out injured? Just how big a blow is that for the side?
Yeah, I think it's a really big blow, Kenzie, because I think he's such an important player to the way that Southampton want to play and the way the manager wants to play, with the fullbacks giving real width. We spoke about it before. I really like his partnership with Stuart Armstrong. It allows Stuart to be more central. It allows him to be more creative with with Walker Peters giving the width and the pace and his attacking threat. So it is a blow. It really, really is. Other players can come in and play in that position, but they're not as effective in the formation that Ralph likes to play. And, I think Walker Peters came back for 2-3 games since his previous injury. He was just getting up to speed. You could see he was just getting a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more direct in his running. And unfortunately, that injury will hinder him again. But it happens in football. It always does. And like we just mentioned, will the manager now think, okay, it's time to change shape. It's time to do something different, which could be a bonus for Southampton. That could be a blessing in disguise where the manager goes, okay, well, I'm forced to make a change now. My hands are tied. Let's change shape. Let's go with a different approach. So it's unfortunate for the player and he will be missed. But, someone else may get an opportunity or a change of shape may just reignite some more energy into the team.
Joe, what do you make of Ralph's options in an attacking sense? He seems to be a little bit spoilt for choice in ways in that part of the pitch.
Definitely, so many options. I mean, I would still prefer to see Danny Ings and Shea Adams up top together. I think that would be the way to go in that area. And then you got, Redmond, Armstrong, Minamino, Gineppo. I mean, personally, I'd go with Ings and Adams and Armstrong and Minamino in those front four positions. I'm not just saying that because they're my PL fantasy team, but I think that's a good balance and a good sort of mixture from what we've seen in recent games, especially in the first half of those matches. So I've been really impressed with Minamino since he's come in. Nearly scored against Wolves last time out. Obviously got the goal away in Newcastle, so I think he's just going to be more settled the longer he gets into that game and kind of gets settled into the team. So for me, that's what I would go with those four. And then, I don't know, could Gineppo, Redmond, Teller maybe do a job at right back? I'm not sure. That's probably asking a little bit too much. But attacking-wise, that's not the problem for Saints. I still think they're going to create chances today. And I would really look to target sort of Rudiger and Azpilicueta down that right side of Chelsea's defensive three. That's what they line up with. And I think Ings and Adams can have some joy there. So Ralph has options up top. We know about the defensive injuries. But yeah, scoring goals should not be a problem.
Fair enough. Well, there is just over 7 minutes until the team news is announced. So before we digress any further, before we get that, let's hear from Ralph Hasenhüttl on the recent run of defeats in the Premier League.
The Premier League season is a long one, and it's for us as a club, as a smaller club, always not even normal that you have a run with losing a few games in a row, always possible. We speak about taking points consistently. We had in the past now consistently getting less than what we maybe deserve to get. There were a lot of games, I think, where we were not the worst team, definitely not, playing better than the opponent, but then get punished of a decision we cannot avoid, that they were not always right, but it's okay. We have to take it, and we took it, and as I said, it's always a way out of this, and I think we have a big chance now against a strong side. The last home win we had was against Liverpool. It was also not easy to take it, but we know that we can beat these teams. But we know that this is maybe one of the most difficult games in the season, especially now when they are in a good run and show the qualities they have in their team. And yeah, we were fighting back in the first game against them, and we took a point in Chelsea, and then hopefully we have another chance to do so.
Dean, Ralph saying there that Saints have lost some matches that they haven't necessarily deserved to lose. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think there's been some matches in particular of late that Southampton have definitely not deserved to lose, potentially not deserved to win, but definitely not to lose, to come away with the game with no points. Some of the decisions, we spoke about the VAR decisions that have been very, very harsh on Southampton. And should never have been decided that way. And we've also spoke about the reaction from the players to the disappointment. I think that needs to be something that could potentially improve. When a decision goes against you as a player, which you can't control, it happens in football with or without VAR. Decisions don't always go for you. And I think it's then galvanising yourself as a group to, leaders within the team, the more experienced players within the team to kind of grab hold of that and go, okay, well, let's just have 5 minutes to compose ourselves, stay within the game, don't concede another goal, don't concede another chance, don't concede another bad decision. So decisions have gone against Southampton. The Aston Villa game one is one that cries out. Last week against Wolves, there was a couple of decisions with the penalty against Southampton and the penalty that potentially could have been for Southampton. So these things happen and they're unfortunate. But I'll still go back to the first half against Wolves last week was one of the best performances I've seen from the Southampton team this season. I thought they were fantastic. Now, what happened second half? Was that down to Wolves' improvement, or was that down to Southampton maybe being a bit complacent and maybe reacting poorly to the decisions against them? But I think the manager's right. There's been a few games this season where Southampton have lost and not deserved to lose. And also, I'd say there's not many games that Southampton have won and not deserved to win. Every game they've won, they've deserved to win, I think. So they're on the right track. They're playing well. They just need to, again, put it all together now. And like the previous Chelsea game when we drew 3-3, there were some brilliant reactions to that. Going 2-0 down, getting it back to 2-2, conceding a third goal very quickly to get it back to 3-3. I think that's going to be needed today as well.
Yeah, well, sticking on that Wolves game, Joe, there were two big decisions that didn't go Southampton's way. We can have another look at them again now. Do you want to talk us through your thoughts on those?
Yeah, obviously the first one here is the handball decision against Ryan Bertrand. And for me, that's just harsh. I mean, you can see why it was given, but it kind of goes against all of the recent calls we've seen in the Premier League because referees seem to be waving away those kind of decisions now. I mean, earlier in the season, there was a kind of a different directive that if it hit the hand of defenders in the box, then, there wasn't any kind of intent. And that was the ruling. It was just handball. But yeah, that situation for me was extremely harsh. And then obviously this one for the handball, which should have been given in Southampton's favour for a penalty. It's just a simple case of if you give the first one against Ryan Bertrand, you have to give this one against Dendoncker. I mean, that's just the way it should work. So I was very confused as to why VAR stepped in, but for the penalty that Saints should have had, it didn't seem to look at that decision for a very long time, to be honest, which I don't know if I'm maybe looking at it with my Saints kind of bias, but I'm just looking at it thinking, is there 60 seconds, a time limit we can put on these decisions where certain situations seem to get a lot more scrutiny from the VAR officials than others? So the decision against Ryan Bertrand, his arm was out slightly, but his arm only really moved out after the ball hit it. So it's very difficult to say, and he wasn't facing the ball either when it was coming towards him. So my big thing with all these decisions now on VAR, with taking so long on some decisions and not that long on others, what's the protocol there? Can we have a time limit like in tennis or other sports where there's a 60-second countdown clock? And if it's not made in that, a decision isn't made in that time, then you move on. I mean, that would be my preference. But again, I feel like Saints, like Dean said, have been very harshly dealt with some of these decisions, and just the moments they've come at games. I mean, that was an extremely pivotal moment in the game when it let Wolves back in. Saints lost the momentum, and we saw what happened and how it unravelled a little bit after that. And that's been a running theme with the Aston Villa game when I joined you guys last time as well. And it just, that's the game sometimes, right? We love football because it's so unpredictable, and at times it can feel very harsh, but there's not a lot you can do about it. But when it comes to these decisions, that was extremely harsh on Saints. And unfortunately for Southampton, that's been a running theme. So their luck has got to change sometime. You've got to have some hoping today that a shot comes in, deflects off a Chelsea player and goes in, something like that. And that can really change things quickly, because we know things change very quickly in football, as we saw how well Saints were doing earlier in the season. It's changed the other way now. So let's see if it can change back in their fortune.
Fingers crossed.
Most definitely. Well, we will be bringing you team news in under a minute's time now. Lots of you anticipating that team news, watching along at home. We've got a comment here from Christine. Thanks for this one. She says, love you, Saints. Love you, Ralph. Another comment here from Razor on YouTube. He's going for a 1-0 win to the Saints today. Ingsy with the goal. He also says, up the Saints. Felix says, let's go, Ralph. Russ on Facebook has got in touch to say, top Saints fans up here in Yorkshire. Super Saints. Thank you for your support. And one final one for now. Kevin on Facebook has said, I would play Fraser. Well, let's take a look at that team news, shall we? Because it can now be revealed that Fraser starts on the bench, Kevin. Alex McCarthy keeps his spot in goal. Mohamed Salisu steps in to replace Kyle Walker-Peters in defence, and Stuart Armstrong is not involved, we assume, due to a niggle. So let's take a look at that team in full then. In goal, Alex McCarthy. At the back, Mohamed Salisu, Jan Bednarek, Yannick Vestergaard and Ryan Bertrand. The midfield, our captain, James Ward-Prowse, and making his 200th Premier League appearance today is Oriol Romeu. Out wide, Moussa Djenepo and Takumi Minamino, and leading the line is Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond. The Saints substitutes are as follows: Fraser Forster, Jack Stevens, Kane Ramsey, Kegs Chauke, Alex Yankovic, Will Ferry, Nathan Teller, Dan Lindeloo and Shay Adams. Let's come to you first, Dean. Will we change shape to accommodate Salisu's inclusion today, do you think?
No, I think the shape will stay the same there. I think Bednarek will go right back. I think Salisu and Vestergaard will play centre halves. Djenepo will come in on the wing with Minamino on the opposite side, and Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond up front, which seems to be a partnership that could possibly work. I agree with Joe. You know, I personally would have brought Shay Adams back into the team. I think their partnership is the best at the club between them two, and Shay causes you different problems. But that's what the manager's gone with. He's obviously seeing something he likes from Ings and Redmond, and you can't really argue with that because Danny started scoring again. So, you know, if Danny's scoring goals, Southampton seem to win games more often than not. So, no, it's a really, really strong team. I like the manager there where he's kept to his philosophy. He's kept to the shape that he likes to play with. He's kind of shown trust again in the group. He's been very, very brave, going, okay, well, I believe in you players to keep this shape, to go and attack Chelsea and be able to win the game. So Salisu comes in. I like that. I think he did okay at Wolves. He grew into the game. And potentially he's only going to be playing against one striker today because Chelsea kind of play a 2 and then a 1. So that may help him. But it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. You know, will the manager change shape potentially during the game, or will he have changed shape and I'm reading it all wrong? But I think he'll keep the same.
Yeah, Joe, let's get your thoughts on this starting 11 then, because as Dean said, you've said earlier in the show that you do prefer to see Shay partnered with Danny Ings, but Ralph is opting to stick with Nathan Redmond up top.
Yeah, it has worked well. I mean, Nathan, apart from finishing off a few chances against Wolves, was very lively, especially in the first half. And I think his running is maybe slightly more mobile than Shay, so he can kind of stretch the defence. And Danny seems to have a bit more space that he can manoeuvre in between central defenders. But yeah, looking at this lineup, like Dean, I'm not quite sure what to expect, but I mean, it could be Moussa Djenepo as a right wing back. Let's wait and see. I mean, it's kind of been a little bit harsh on him, I think. He's played right back and right wing back when he's been coming on due to injuries in recent games, and that's not really his best position. I know Dean's a big fan of him in those attacking areas in the final third, and he can make something happen, and he's, you know, a real box of tricks. So I'm looking at maybe that's the sort of change up there with Bednarek, Salisu and Vestergaard as 3 centre-backs, and kind of almost going man-to-man with Chelsea because they're playing again 3 central defenders as well. So intrigued to see that, but going forward, I think, you know, Minamino, Redmond and Ings should cause a lot of problems, and I'm intrigued to see how they kind of link up, because in the first half, especially against Wolves, they caused them a lot of problems. And Shay Adams is a great option to have off the bench with, you know, 30, 25 minutes to go to kind of hold the ball up if Saints are in a positive position. So, yeah, good options going forward, but still trying to scratch my head about exactly how Saints are lining up today.
Yeah, well, there was no confusion about who was going to be in the middle, and as Kenzie mentioned earlier, it is going to be Oriol Romeu's 200th Premier League appearance. He made 22 of those for Chelsea and 177 so far for Southampton. Dean, when he's on form, what does he bring to the team?
Well, I think what we've seen from when he's on form, a strong opinion, but I don't think there's anyone better in the Premier League that does what he does. I think he's fantastic at, you know, winning the ball back. He's so comfortable in possession, protects the ball so well. He's so effective in that position where he gets overlooked a lot in football, I think, but he does the basics exceptionally well. His passing of the ball, winning the ball back, his positioning sense, he senses danger. I think the manager's touched on the fact this season he's a little bit fitter. I think he's leaned down, which he's lost a little bit of weight, which has really helped his game. And unfortunately, when he does pick up that booking, and I think we saw that against Wolves last week, he can't be quite as effective, and he wasn't in the second half because he's very wary of the tackles he makes. He has to pick and choose when he tries to win the ball, and I think that affects his game. But when he's on form, I think the run that Southampton had at the beginning of the season was down to a lot to do with his form. He was fantastic, really, really commanding, dominated the middle of the field, was breaking forward at times, as we saw at his goal against West Brom. Great volley. He's having more shots at goal. And he's one of those players which you need. He will receive the ball anywhere on the pitch. With 2 or 3 players around him, he'll be comfortable to receive it. He can bounce it back. He can open out. Brilliant player. Really, really is. So the more game time we can get into him, he's in the team, I think it makes a big difference to the Southampton team.
So let's talk about Danny Ings in a little bit more depth then. We spoke about him briefly at the top of the show, but he was on a bit of a goal drought. He's now scored 2 in 2. Just how important do you think it is that he is now finding the back of the net again, given that even when Saints aren't playing well, he can often be the difference?
It's huge because I think it allows the rest of the team to relax a bit more and gives them, somebody in areas to aim for in the pitch. Because it kind of allows Ward-Prowse and Romeo to then snap into tackles and know when they win it, it's going to be used well. It's going to be used cleverly, shall I say, in terms of Danny, when you get him the ball, it's not just about scoring goals. He can, hold the ball up, bring others like Redmond and Minamino into the play. And that's kind of an underrated part of his game as well. So when he's on form and fit and firing, and he seems to finally got some of those injuries and recovered fully from those and looks really, really fit and strong. So you need that end product. And I think that also incentivizes the fullbacks to get forward as well as midfielders, because if they're flooding forward, they know that Danny's going to hold it up. They got options to build off of that. So I think the whole team definitely benefits from that. And obviously, he's a streaky player. Once he gets on these goal streaks, his goal record for Saints has been brilliant. I mean, it's at nearly a goal every other game, which is the goal that every single striker looks for, if not better. And I think that carrot dangling sort of in front of him is getting into that England squad in March. Ahead of the Euros, there's a lot of competition now in those attacking areas, especially since the last time England played. So that's pretty good for Southampton. I think that Danny will be fired up to stay in the England setup, push his way into Southgate's squad for this summer. And that will be a really good thing between now and the end of the season for Saints. No matter what else is happening on the pitch, I think you can definitely rely on Danny, as long as he stays fit, to deliver goals and assists.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Southampton haven't beaten Chelsea here at St Mary's for nearly 8 years. It was all the way back in March 2013. So let's remind ourselves now of how that game went down.
Players are on the pitch. Chelsea in all blue will kick off, playing from right to left as we look down. Turns it out to the left-hand side to Shaw. Spurs are 2 up at Swansea now. Ball played back in field cleverly to Rodriguez. Left-hand edge of the box, looking for a 1-2. Gets a 1-2. Shot! Goal! Fantastic start from Jay Rodriguez. Brilliant 1-2 with Stephen Davis. And Southampton have played their way through Chelsea's defence. Now Marion with the corner for Chelsea. Whips this one out, swinger. Free header, 1-1. And John Terry back in the team. He's back in the goals. And he's got a really firm header down past Boruc. No chance for the goalkeeper. And Marco Marion's corner fell perfectly on his head. Lambert lines it up, just left of centre. Cech gets his positioning, 34 minutes gone. Right-footed, Lambert curls it and scores a fantastic clean free kick for Southampton. What a strike that is, and what a way to celebrate the 500th career league game. Ricky Lambert gets Saints back in the league. Chelsea are level for 2 minutes. And Calvin Davis looks like he is coming on to make an appearance for Saints, his first one of 2013. Onto his left foot, then he crosses it. Højbjerg misses the header. Moses tries to get the shot away. Might fall for Lampard, offside. And it'll be a free kick to Saints. And they play the ball into Torres. Torres holds it up with his mask on, and he's fouled by Schneiderlin. Free kick in a dangerous position. The difference between Chelsea... Taken quickly as Piliqueta down the right, turns it in field. Moses with the shot, and Davis tips it onto the crossbar and away for a corner. That's a good save, Adam. We've had the 4 minutes of stoppage time, and that is it. Back-to-back wins for Southampton in the Premier League for the first time November.
Well, a 2-1 win there at St Mary's. And Joe, let's start with the first goal. It was brilliant play on the edge of the box and a great finish by Jay Rodriguez at a time when he was really beginning to start showing his quality.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, this was kind of epitomised everything good about that Saints team and about Jay Rodriguez at that time. And I have really fond memories of this game. I was actually at St Mary's as a fan. I was playing still up in Scotland, and for some reason we had a weekend off, so I came down to spend time with family. The dad got some tickets to the game and had an amazing time. And this again was great to see Pochettino and the high press working, the quality and attack. And on that day, it was just relentless pressure on Chelsea, and St Mary's was rocking. The fans were really responding to that style of football. And yeah, really fond memories of not just this game, but this whole kind of era that really began under Pochettino. So St Mary's was really lively on that day, and definitely a fond game in my memory.
Oh, we do miss the fans, don't we? Now, Dean, we've spoken about Ricky Lambert a lot, of course, but not so much about his free kicks. Now, this was a particularly good one. Just how lethal was he from these kind of situations?
Yeah, he really was. He's the power Ricky used to get in his strikes. You can see from this goal, it's a long way out and against a world-class goalkeeper as well. So, he used to hit it with his side foot, really, but get so much power and so much accuracy. And he used to work on it in training. He used to practice it, but he would have all sorts of strikes. You can see from the free kicks he scored, and all very, very different, all from a long way out. But funny with Ricky, because we were just talking off air that he scored a few in League One, a lot in the Premier League, but not any in the Championships, which surprised me really for the amount of goals he's got. And we used to work on set pieces quite a lot in training. And the assistant manager and the coach used to get frustrated with Ricky quite a lot because he'd strike and shoot from everywhere. But we used to try and do this drill where me and Jose would be at the back post behind to the side of the wall. So everyone would be expecting Ricky to shoot. And we'd be at the back and we'd get a block in where potentially I would block Jose's man and he'd be getting around the back. And the coaches would be screaming at Ricky going, it's on. Look, they've not seen it. They think you're going to strike. And Ricky would shoot every time. And you'd look across at the dugout and the coaches would be going mad, throwing bottles down. And Ricky would just look and go, what do you want me to do? I'm a striker. So, yeah. But no, Ricky was fantastic, brilliant player. And just one of the things that he could always do, and I think his first one away at Oldham was one that trickled in that the keeper let under his body. So, but no, brilliant player, brilliant guy. We spoke about him many a times. And that was just one of the things he could do. Similar to his penalties, if he got a set piece or a penalty, you expected him to hit the target or score. So, yeah, brilliant player and a legend of the football club.
Yeah, definitely an exceptionally natural finisher, Ricky Lambert. There was a couple of quirks from that game, though. Firstly, Ryan Bertrand, he was playing for Chelsea at the time. He'd then go on to join Southampton on loan before joining permanently in 2015. Joe, what did you make of his signing at the time and what he's gone on to achieve at Southampton now?
I remember it being like just a really solid addition, and he added over time an extra dimension from fullback from an attacking point of view. And it's very similar to the situation with Kyle Walker-Peters now over the last 12 months, where he sort of really stepped up to prove himself as a Premier League regular while he was at Southampton and had the chance to do that. So he was on loan at Aston Villa before. That didn't really go too well for him, but it was really obviously a good move for Ryan, short term and Saints, and then long term as well. It's incredible to see his longevity, and I was looking at his stats, and he has a few injuries over the years, but just consistently getting 30, 35 games every season out of him. And he's a really nice guy. I've had the pleasure of chatting with him on a few occasions. He's very focused, and he's got kind of an old school like aura to him. I'm sure Dean would kind of know what I'm talking about here, when it's like a player that he embraces everything about the modern game, but he kind of keeps everyone else in check. You can tell the defensive line and midfield. And when you think about the great Saints teams he played in, he's one of the last guys kind of standing from, the Koeman era and that time at Saints. So I love the way he plays. He's so confident, very relaxed on the ball. And I think that exudes confidence throughout the entire team. They give him the ball and they're not worried that he's going to make any mistakes. So it'd be great to see him obviously get a new contract. There's talks about that, and he seems very positive about staying at Saints for the next 2-3 years at least. And it's been a great move for everyone concerned, because he was an England regular for a long time as well. Although he's coming towards the end of his playing days, certainly a lot left in the tank. So a classy left back And I'm sure this one today against Chelsea is a very special one for Ryan Bertrand.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, Dean, that was a game that also featured Kelvin Davis. He came on as a second half substitute. Do you think he was given a fair crack in the Premier League, given he was so key to the back-to-back promotions?
It's a great question, it really is, because I remember Calvin obviously started the first season back in the Premier League, and early on in the season made a first game, I think, away at Manchester City, made a penalty save. A few games later, made another penalty save against Manchester United, I think it was, at home. And like you say, Kenzie, Cal's a legend at the football club for what he'd achieved and the performances he put in and the way he'd been club captain and conducting himself around the ground. But it's difficult because you have to isolate each situation, each season as you go through. And Cal would have wanted to play more games. But I think at the time, he was about 36, 37 years old, something like that. The club was moving forward very, very quickly and rapidly. And I think he just found a different role at the football club, if that makes sense. He was so influential in around the training ground, in the dressing room, with new players, with old players, keeping everyone in check, really, being the voice for the manager within the dressing room, on the training ground. And I think that gets undervalued sometimes. That's so important. I was reading an article that Cal did that he said his favourite manager was Pochettino, and Pochettino didn't play him that much. So I think that speaks volumes. He signed a new contract in that year, in the first year in the Premier League. So I think the manager realised that he could have such a benefit on the squad. He might not play week in and week out. And I think if you ask Cal, he may have accepted that and become comfortable with that at that stage of his career. You know, he played consistently for years and years, brilliant goalkeeper. And then when he does come on, like in the Chelsea game, made a fantastic save towards the end so they could get the result. So as you go through your career, it's difficult to take as a player because you're ambitious, you want to play. But I think he would have understood the situation. But like every player, you want to play every week. But Cal was brilliant.
Yeah, well, that victory against Chelsea was the first time Saints had won back-to-back games under Pochettino, having previously beaten Liverpool in the game before. Joe, what do you remember from those early days under Poch and how he got the team playing?
I'm just laughing because Calvin Davis was in front of me throughout all of what you were just saying about him. He was messing around and having a laugh and joke with everyone, so that kind of sums him up really well. He's obviously on the coaching staff, and everyone seems to love Calvin Davis, and he's a great guy. But yeah, going back to the Pochettino era, the one word I'd use to sum it up was relentless. I mean, from the very start, it really was an incredible impact he had in such a short space of time to turn things around. And I do remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying when Saints played away at Old Trafford, I think it was a narrow defeat, but he said Southampton were the best team we played all season. Obviously, United won the league in that season, his final season in charge. But that was surprising to hear that a manager would speak that highly about a team that was turned around very quickly. And Nigel Adkins was loved by the fans. He still is. The fans weren't very happy when Pochettino first came in, so he had to get it right, and there was extra pressure there. But he did get it right. It felt very harsh on Nigel at the time, but having got to know Poch over the years, interviewed him when he was at Saints, and then when he went on to have great success at Tottenham, he's a classy individual, as well as being a very demanding coach. I mean, players know what you're going to get from Pochettino, what he demands, the levels, and you can see what it does on the pitch. You can see the end results, which I think most players, pretty much all players, that's what they want to be doing during the week, working towards the weekend, and how are these training sessions going to benefit me at the weekend. And you saw that very, very quickly under Pochettino. So no surprise he's had the success that he's had at other clubs he's since moved on to, and now he's leading Paris Saint-Germain, the hammering Barcelona in the Champions League. So he's doing pretty well for himself, and it was great to see the start of his journey in England. And again, like I said, getting high praise from Sir Alex Ferguson early on. Doesn't get much better than that either.
Absolutely not. Well, before we talk about today's game, let's head back to social media to see what's being said from the fans watching along at home. We've got a comment here saying, let's keep a strong defence and control the game. We just can't let Chelsea get a look in. Jose's commented on Facebook, good luck Southampton, all the way from Barcelona. Thanks for your company. Paul's commented, would have played Forster myself. Teller could be a good option as well. Graham, hello to you. He says Armstrong injury, very annoying. Yeah, it is a shame for sure. A comment here from Lynn. We trust in Ralph. Come on, you Saints. Another one here on Facebook. Lots of love, hope and commitment from Copenhagen. Thank you very much. Harry is going for a 1-0 Saints win today. Daisy on YouTube is going for a 2-1 win to the Saints. She thinks it will be Ings and Minamino on the score sheet. And a final one for now. Awadzi, I hope I'm saying that right, on YouTube. Good that Salisu starts. He's been solid at the back. Thank you very much for all those comments coming in. Well, let's talk about the job at hand today then. But before we do that, we are going to look back at the last time the two sides met when Saints came back to draw 3-3 at Stamford Bridge.
Well,
coming off on the half
and then Werner's done. Bednarek with the dummy, gone round him into the box, onto his right foot. He wants it. He's going to cross the penalty area. Low shot, deflects maybe, but either way, this time it does count for Timo Werner. Just a minute or so after he had a goal disallowed. Inside to Jorginho, first time ball, looking to put Werner in over the top. It's a beauty. Pressure on Bednarek, and he's nod back, doesn't get as far as McCarthy, and that will be two for Werner, who flipped it over McCarthy and headed it home. And then Havertz goes past one, scoots past two, but showed too much and it gave it away. Now Ings is in from Adams, he's passed round Kepa, and Saints are back into it before half time. Beautifully polished off by Danny Ings. They're all having a half-time workout. And the ball goes back from Kepa, and Saints could be in here. And Adams, can he get it to Ings? Still it's not clear. Adams hits it. It hasn't got out of play. He smashed it into the roof of the net. Frank Lampard's distraught. Ralph Hasenhüttl's delighted. Plays it on the right. Inside he plays it to Pulisic. Dances past the half-challenger Ward-Prowse. Through to Werner. Slides it square. Havertz has his first Premier League goal. And that's a brilliant reply from Chelsea. Just after Saints had them at 6s and 7s at the back from Ryan Bertrand's left foot. Saints player falls over. Vestergaard can't win it. Walcott will volley in low, and it's gone in the far corner. And it may be big. Yannick Vestergaard got a touch on its way through. It was volleyed into the box by Walcott, and Southampton have come back again. It's a terrific point for Southampton here at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, an impressive comeback there at Stamford Bridge. It's almost a bit odd seeing Timo Werner score any goals as well. But Dean, just how impressive was that result?
Really, really impressive against an informed Chelsea team at the time. And I think the result and the performance was excellent. I think on the day, if I recall, we started really, really slow, conceded 2 goals that probably could have been stopped or prevented. But it was the reaction that really impressed me. To get that goal before half-time, a brilliant finish from Danny Ings. He just showed his quality, so composed. Just goes around the goalkeeper and slides it in. And then to get the equaliser to make it 2-2. And I just remember second half, the team playing with real freedom, real belief that they could go and cause Chelsea some problems. And again, it was a fantastic performance. But then at 2-2 to concede a sloppy goal when we had controlled possession. I think it was Vestergaard tried to pass or got caught in possession. But then to react again and to come back to draw the game 3-3 was fantastic. Like I said, against a really informed Chelsea team, always difficult to go to Stamford Bridge. So very, very impressive display. And I think them qualities and them values are going to be needed today. There's going to be times where Southampton are going to have to be patient and they're going to probably have to react to a little bit of disappointment if Chelsea score because they are a threat. So brilliant performance and really just showed what Southampton were going to build into the coming weeks.
Joe, as Dean just said there, they were a great side at the time. In fact, they'd only lost 1 match prior to December in all competitions. Were you surprised to see Frank Lampard disposed of so quickly? And what have you made of Thomas Tuchel's flying start to life with the Blues?
I was surprised slightly just because it was kind of uncharted territory for Chelsea to have, a club legend in charge, and I thought that would buy him a bit more time. We all know how ruthless Chelsea have been over the years with sacking managers, and that hire 'em, fire 'em approach has always worked for them. They seem to just keep winning trophies and keep being successful. Did like Frank Lampard, really nice character. Obviously, said legend of the game, not just at Chelsea. But I did think at some points they were a little bit naive defensively. It was kind of the same mistakes over and over again. And it was a little bit stubborn to maybe change some of the personnel. Once a player was out of the team, like Alonso or a few others, that was it. That they couldn't really force their way back in. So personally, I felt he deserved to stay in charge until the end of the season. I was at a game against Leeds at Stamford Bridge in December when they won and they went top of the league. And that isn't a million miles away from, it seems to have turned very, very quickly from being a very positive situation. So that said, I think when Thomas Tuchel, when he becomes available like he did in December, quite surprisingly, he is, I'd say, probably one of the top 10 managers in the world, if not higher than that. In my opinion, he has that tactical nous, that defensive kind of organisation where they have that, yes, but Chelsea still have the attacking flair as well, which, you know, you only have to look at his record so far. 4 wins from his first 5 Premier League games, only 1 goal conceded. That's impressive, incredibly impressive. And he's a very engaging character, very similar to Jurgen Klopp and maybe Ralph in some ways as well. So no surprise that he started so well. I've spoken to him in a few press conferences so far, and he doesn't seem scared of this challenge at Chelsea. He seems very excited and he's enjoying it, smiling, laughing. And I think he's quite hungry as well after being sacked by PSG, which, as I said, was a bit of a surprise considering they got to the Champions League final last season and they obviously dominated in France. I thought that was quite harsh. So that's probably a good thing for Chelsea as well, that he has a bit of fire in his belly to kind of prove people wrong and show that he can be a success in the Premier League. So, yeah, dangerous for Saints to play Chelsea when they're in such good form. And Tuchel has certainly brought a totally different dimension to this Chelsea team since he came in.
Yeah, definitely. And Dean, Chelsea obviously recruited heavily last summer, spent a lot of money in, and now they've got a new manager in who's got experience at other big clubs as well. What have you made of them this season, and can you point out any weaknesses in that Chelsea team?
Well, I agree with Joe. I think it was a little bit harsh on Frank, but if I'm honest, I saw it coming. I think we all saw it coming at some point because that's how Chelsea approach. If you're not challenging, then replace the manager. I think it's a really good appointment. I think he'll be fantastic for Chelsea. Is there any major weaknesses? I think Chelsea are a massive football club. They've had the reaction of bringing a new manager in. The players look as though they're enjoying playing the new formation he's playing. They look as though they're enjoying playing for the manager. But Chelsea, I think it's been for many years, and that's why they invested so much money in Ben Chilwell. During the summer, the left-hand side is not their strongest, and Ben's not even playing today. Alonso's playing. You've got Werner, who kind of plays there as a number 10, but kind of wide left, and then Rudiger at left fullback. So I think that if there is a weakness, it's down that left-hand side. Unfortunately, Walker-Peters is not playing today, but the left-hand side is, because Alonso, brilliant attacking player. He really is. You know, gets in the box, scores headers, very, very creative for a left-sided player, but doesn't really want to run back and defend. And the goalkeeper, I still think there's question marks over Mendy. He makes some good save. I think he can be a bit hesitant with his feet at times. And for a club like Chelsea, I think they need a more dominant goalkeeper. So no real weaknesses, but I think if you're going to identify some areas that you could exploit Chelsea, I think it's down the left-hand side personally.
Well, weaknesses aside, they are a team in form at the moment. Southampton, on the other hand, have, of course, been struggling of late. Joe, how do you assess the league table for Southampton at the moment?
It's not great, is it? Let's be honest. But, you know, this happens quite a lot, I think, with Ralph's teams. I've looked back at his past seasons at Leipzig and Ingolstadt, and there definitely is a drop-off in mid-season and then the second half of the season. So I don't know whether that's due to the intensity levels. I mean, looking around the Premier League in the last few weeks, you've seen ourselves, Liverpool, Leeds, teams who play high intensity football have kind of struggled to string results together. And that may just be due to the congested schedule and the fixtures are coming thick and fast at the moment. So maybe we shouldn't read into it too much. But I was thinking as well, there was a bit of a drop-off last season around this point where there were a few defeats. And then obviously we had the break due to the first lockdown, and that gave Saints a really good chance to reset, work on their fitness, and came back really strong over the summer months and the start of this season. So maybe that was very beneficial. But I mean, it's not a bad scenario really for Saints. I mean, best case now is a top 10 finish. Probably before we were looking at maybe sneaking into the top 6 and qualifying for Europe. But some winnable games coming up between now and end of March, and I think it's key to build that positive momentum between now and the FA Cup quarter-final against Bournemouth, which I'm sure all Saints fans watching this will be really eager and have that date circled on their calendar to have a good cup run, maybe get to the final if the draw's a bit kind to them and they come up with some big performances. But I do remember Saints had a similar bad run around this time of the season under Ronald Koeman, and then they ended up finishing 6th and went on an incredible run at the end of the season. So that kind of spurred them on then not to get sucked into a relegation battle. And I don't want to mention that word too much because I don't think it's really on the agenda for Saints, but a few more defeats and then the likes of Fulham, if they keep picking up and winning games, then they could be looking anxiously over their shoulders in the final months of the season, and nobody wants that. So, I think it's going to be difficult to regain that early season momentum, but some more solid defensive displays today against Chelsea and then against Leeds, I think that will set the foundation for a good finish to the season. And being in the FA Cup, that will help as well to kind of give the players a real target to focus on, to keep improving. And hopefully, like I said earlier, that luck changes today.
Yeah, okay. Dean, Joe mentioned just a few moments ago about Thomas Tuchel's playing style, and it seems to be all about possession. Chelsea have had over 70% in 3 of his 6 games in charge and dominated basically in all of them. How do you think Saints should approach this game today knowing that?
Really good question again, Steve, because a possession-based team like Chelsea, they will give you opportunities because they pass the ball so much and because they want to keep possession. They like to rotate it around the pitch, so there will be chances to be able to press and to be able to steal the ball and then counter-attack. But also, when you're playing against a team that are very, very good in possession, you need to be disciplined. Your shape defensively needs to be disciplined. You don't need 1 or 2 players going off on their own trying to press. You need to do it as a group, from a structure, from a base. But I don't think the manager, look, we don't know. Will he change the shape? Will he not change the shape? We're not sure. But I think the way Southampton play, they press, they play with that high intensity. They want to put pressure on the opposition. I don't think that will change. And I think it needs to be a similar performance against Liverpool at home when the team won 1-0. Get ahead, have something to hold on to, raise the spirits, motivate each other. Be patient, appreciate times during the game that you're not going to have the ball for long periods of time, even with being the home team, and just be aware of that. And when you do get opportunities, you need to take them. And when you need to defend and throw your body in front of the ball to make blocks, you need to do that as well. So it needs to be a really good performance by Southampton today. There's no hiding away from that because Chelsea are in good form. But they can do it. They can definitely do it. They've proved this season they can beat anyone in this league on their day. So why not today? I think it's going to be a good game, a close game. But Southampton need to definitely be disciplined.
I like that, Dean. Why not today, indeed? Yeah. Well, this is the part of the show where we come to you for your score predictions. It has been confirmed that Armstrong has picked up another knock. It's nothing serious, but of course it does rule him out for this weekend. But still a plethora of attacking options, Joe. Do you predict a lot of goals in this one?
Sort of, yeah. I'm going to go... I don't think I've ever predicted Saints to lose since I've been on with you guys this season. So I'm going to go against that, though. It shows what a great season it's been, but I just think Chelsea are too strong at the moment in a good vein of form. I think it's going to be, like Dean said, a game where Saints can have a lot of chances on the counter. But I'm going to go for a narrow Chelsea win, 2-1, maybe 3-2, something like that. But there's going to be goals. But I think Saints will just come up short today. But that's my opinion.
Okay, well, Dean, you said why not today? So what scoreline are you predicting?
Well, I understand what Joe's saying. I do. I just think it needs to be a performance like against Liverpool. I think Chelsea will be on top. I think they have more possession of the ball. I think they'll probably create more chances. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 Southampton win with a really good defensive display, with a little bit of luck for Southampton at times, whether that's decisions or the Chelsea players not taking their opportunities. But I'm going to go for a Danny Ings goal and a 1-0 win for Southampton.
Yeah, great stuff, great stuff. Well, thank you very much, Dean and Joe, for joining us on Saints Live. Well, can Southampton turn the tide here on the South Coast and claim their first win in 7 Premier League games? Or will a resurgent Chelsea turn Southampton's weekend blue? Join us after the game for the final whistle, where we'll have all the post-match reaction and analysis. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you then.